everybody. Welcome to Sales and Cigars. I'm your host, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development. Today's guest is a marketing professional. He's got an agency, small agency that has a couple of things that are really important when it comes to hiring a marketing agency: ethics and experience, and the know-how to know what they can do and if they're a good fit for you. So the guest is Dave Kryszczak, and the Spartan Digital is the agency. We get into some of the things that have happened to me that I've struggled with in terms of pay-per-click and SEO. So go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, strap in for another educational episode of Sales and Cigars. Thanks. So Dave, welcome to the program. I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to jump on and have a conversation.
Appreciate it, Walter. Thanks to be here.
I always start off with this question. I think it gives some insight to guests, the way they think. But is there a book that you reread or gift a lot to your business colleagues and friends and acquaintances?
Yeah, I have two. One was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Just a big fan of him as a negotiator and going through a lot of sales training myself personally. And now, from the ownership perspective, it's Who Not How from Dan Sullivan. A buddy of mine sent me that as a joke. He's like, just read this. And I'm like, I'm not the biggest reader, but you asked me to, so I'll do it. And he doesn't normally say that. And it's completely transformed how we run Spartan as a business. So they're the top two, probably. If I had to give somebody two books, those would be that.
I mean, it's hard to narrow things down to like two books, but
yeah,
both of those books are worth reading multiple times. Who Not How is like, one of those things that make you really think twice, but it really helps you think about delegating, thinking about how to run your business, how to grow it more quickly. And Voss is just that late night DJ FM voice kind of thing that he does is pretty cool.
A tactical approach to communication that he provides is insane. And as a bootstrapper, it's Who Not How sets you back a little bit, gives you that imposter syndrome and says, okay, what am I doing that I should not be doing anymore?
But it's the thing that makes you think, what am I really, really good at? Where can my time have the greatest impact? It's stuff that we know. It's just put into a context that makes us like, oh, we can do this, and it's going to help us grow. And I'm helping a sales guy who's a super competent sales guy. He's growing a great book of business, but what they're trying to do is get him to be more customer facing. Right. So, and they found a person that's going to help them. They got great plans, good strategy. But one of the things I told them is like, dude, you're going to struggle to give it up. You're going to struggle to give this guy the latitude to go solve the problem, right? So that's something that's your baggage that you're going to have to let go. Be clear about setting expectations and be clear about what the outcomes are, but they might not do it exactly the same as you. And that's, to me, that's the hard part.
We're 13 people here at Spartan. We're a small agency. And the problem with marketing agencies is account management. And people hate that term. They hate everything about that word. They don't like account managers. They don't like any of that stuff. So we're approaching that from a different perspective, where it's actual operators that are being co-trained in account management. So they're actually the ones doing the work on the product while also speaking from a minor sales perspective. But that's it's not me. So that's the struggle I go through every day.
That's the important thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that. Those are, I get Chris Voss every once in a while. I rarely get Who Not How, but those are two good ones. So let's talk a little bit about, you're talking to, the audience is made up of a lot of entrepreneurs and sales leaders and salespeople really are entrepreneurs in their own way. So talk a little bit about your journey to get to what you're doing now. I don't imagine, maybe wrong, but I don't imagine that when you were 10, you were thinking you're going to be doing this.
No. So Spartan's about a decade old, just under, and started out was going to go into IT consulting and management. Um, Buddy of mine called me one day and said, "Do you build websites?" I'm on the phone with the guy, and I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Give us a couple weeks," because he knew I was a nerd and I could figure it out. Absolutely, give us a couple weeks. Give me X amount of dollars. We'll take care of it. Click. How the hell do we build a website? I knew I could figure it out. Knew we could build something for him. I didn't know how good it would be at the time, but fell in love with that process as a musician. My first, when I was 10, what I wanted to be when I grew up, a website was a creative way to sell somebody's stuff. It was cool. Margins were great. I didn't know that at the time, but it was a lot of fun, and I really didn't feel like I was working. So we started Spartan, and we just did websites. But as I say, in the marketing world, everything bleeds really fast. So once the website's built, who's going to manage it? Who's going to take care of it? What's this SEO thing? How do we tell Google who we are? Do you know what Facebook is? How do we post stuff on there? Podcasts, videos, drones, ads. And then I got coined with the term marketing agency, and that's what we have now. So we've got 13 awesome people, and we've been doing it ever since.
So marketing agency means different things to different people, right? Sometimes it's very specific, but to me, it's a broad term.
Mm-hmm.
And are you like, so you did websites, and now you're an agency doing anything what they're asking you to do. Is there a particular focus that Spartan's going after? Is there a particular segment or niche that you like? We really like this, and we're really good at this.
Yeah, so I'll say we're an execution-based agency because there's a lot of agencies that talk, but not a lot that walk, and we like to walk while we talk. And we love home services and professional services. A lot of people shy away from them, but we have some really, really good accounts with some national brands that we've started locally here in the Philly region that just work. We have the right playbook, we have the right setup, and those clients are really happy. And that's probably the best part. And the ROI is there. If it's not there, we won't take the business. We know what's not going to work.
So that's a little B2C and a little B2B. Did I hear that right?
A little bit of a mixture. Absolutely.
And that's hard to, those are two different segments with different sets of problems and different demographics.
Mm-hmm.
I know with what I do, those are two different, like I got to switch hats. I got to change my brain.
Yeah.
Talking to the B2C person as opposed to the B2B person. They have their own unique problems. Marketing is marketing and sales is sales, but you're able to cross that bridge because professional services on the B2B side also really, really hard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Selling epoxy flooring to warehouses is really difficult to write a campaign for. But then at the same time, those same people want to sell to $1 million square foot homes to a homeowner. And how we speak to that homeowner versus how we speak to that warehouse manager is completely separate. But we don't like to, and I've seen other agencies do this just from a operations perspective and a culture perspective. Typically, you see marketing's like, all right, great. We got all these phone calls. And as soon as marketing picks up the call, they're like, yeah, we're done. That now it's sales job. I like to go one step further just from a tracking perspective and see, okay, that's awesome. But how do you actually do on the phone? How do you sell? Is it because we can produce as many leads as you need us to and as deep as your pocketbooks are. But if you suck at closing, why am I being paid so much money when you need to focus on sales?
And if you suck at opening, not let them closing.
Yeah. We typically work them back into a close rate of like, all right, on your worst day, how are you going to do? And I'll base the real numbers off of that. Because we can do our number. Agencies hide in statistics all the time. but I've tried to measure it on based off of how I think that client's actually going to do once we do our job. Because it's great. Sucks if it doesn't work because everybody gets fired and people get mad and this, that, and the third.
But they don't deal with the real issue.
How about when it does?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
I had years ago, still a friend. He had a marketing agency, and we had a conversation initially, like they were going to hire me to help them, and I had a brand thing that I needed to do, and that's one of the things that they were really good at. So we got into a conversation, like a discovery call, and he I'm sorry, I just dropped a cord on me. We cut that out. 3, 2, 1. So he asked me a really great question. He goes, if I gave you 100 new leads a week, what are you going to do with them? Can you close them? Do you have capacity for them?
Yep.
And, to me, that was like, I'm always evaluating somebody else's sales process and their questions. And that was the first time somebody had asked me that. And I thought it was, really a really good question to stop somebody in their tracks, because I'm a sales guy. I've been a sales guy for 40 years. So if I can't close a pre-qualified lead that is ready to move forward and has the right resources and I can help them, that's on me, right? If we send something over the marketing wall, right, as they say, that is the wrong fit, I'm going to disqualify that really fast. But I think that's a really important point for people that are looking at marketing opportunities and marketing agencies and figuring out what the right thing to do is if they got 100, if they got 10, what are they going to do with them? Because I see it on a regular basis that sales leads come across the wall and nobody's doing something with them, or at least not well.
Yeah, and a lot of our home services guys have trucks and have men and women that are working. I'm like, all right, what's your capacity? Like, if you have 45 guys, how many jobs can they handle? So we know where to set the ceiling at. God forbid the sky falls, which sometimes it does for our water and mold restoration clients. It physically does. Can you take 200 calls right now? Do you have the office staff? Do you have the physical capabilities to even service that? Or do we set the ceiling at your absolute max threshold? So when that does happen, and it has, and you call me and we turn the ads off. That's the best compliment a marketing agency could ever get.
Yeah.
Is to turn them off. They're working too good.
Right. Yeah.
And we've gotten them before we started going this way of, we want to do really well, of course, for our clients, but we don't want to overpay for work either, because we've done that in the past too.
Right. So do you help them? Do you engage with them about how they go about closing, how they go about, making sure that they're saying the same things that the website says, that the marketing ads say, that any other marketing campaigns, are they all congruent? Are you helping them with that sales side, or do you say like you need to get help?
Yeah, it's more sales support, right? It's the messaging, it's all that. But then also a lot of our people the owners are great. Or they have a chief salesperson or a COO type where they know their product, they know their service inside and out, because it's been their whole lives most of the time, or second or third generation. Problem is when they get into, all right, now I've got 15 girls in the office taking phone calls for new leads coming in, and they have no idea. They know what they're doing, but they're not as passionate as the ownership. Right. So we, with the right tracking and everything implemented, we actually listen to all of those calls. My team does. And we make recommendations when warranted. We're not being paid to do that, but just as a business owner to a business owner, if you can mitigate something before it becomes a giant problem, or it's costing you dollars, we'd like to tell you about that. So for some of our clients that we've had for a while, we're definitely kind of also in their back seat looking around at other things, saying, are they saying the right things? Are they treating the customers the right way? How are they on the phone? Because that's most of these home services. It's really important, that dialect, how you speak to them, and how you make that customer feel on the other end for an HVAC company before you give them 20, 25 grand for a new heater system,
Yeah.
new HVAC system. You don't just talk to them like you would talk to somebody on the street selling hot dogs.
Well, absolutely. But, I've had done a lot of work in my house, my property, and I've had HVAC guys come out. I've had water softener guys come out. I've had people that install RO systems, kitchen. Imagine it. We've had them out here, and they all suck.
And you still give them money.
Well, despite themselves.
Yeah.
And I've literally said to somebody, like, you're not very good at this. I just told you what I wanted to buy, and you have it, but you still want to go through this whole long, drawn out.
Just shut up and write it up.
Yeah.
Shut up and take my money.
And you said, but I want to make sure you understand. I told you the specs. You have this. I met all the specs. I have done my research.
Yeah, it's like you walk into the car dealership and they're like, this is the custom order form for the truck. This is what I want. And then they said, no, but did you look at this? No. This is the truck. This is what I want. Just take the money.
Right.
Period.
I mean,
Shut up.
You should ask some questions about, are we doing this right? Are we servicing them properly? Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But they want to go back and they want to do their whole pitch. And
yes, people are like robots sometimes. It's scary.
It's the bad ones are. The good ones are like, oh, wow, you really figured this out. Yeah. And then you ask them a question that they haven't thought about. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now this is how we create credibility as a salesperson, to make that buyer think differently than they had planned to.
Yeah.
And then either you were confirming what they want, or we're helping them see that there's another thing that maybe would be better, maybe not.
You got to break that OODA loop though, because the buyer shouldn't be in control either.
Well, but when you have a bad salesperson, that you default to the buyer's process, and with B2C like HVAC or whatever,
it's tough.
It's commoditization, right? That buyer's just looking at. I mean, I teach them to say, like, it sounds to me that what you're saying is price is the most important part of your decision process. And the buyer, like, yeah, that's it. It's all that really matters. Okay, then we might not have a fit, because I can't remember the last time somebody hired us because I was the cheapest, right? Yeah. And what's going to happen? The guy that's really, really, really all about price, that you're never going to close, that's going to be a big pain in the ass, they're going to hang up or go someplace else.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
But
race for price.
Right. But if they say, well, why people pay a little bit more money? Now we're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we can ask the right question, like, well, why do you think they pay us more money? Like, well, maybe your product lasts longer. No, that's it.
Yeah. I just got off a sales call today. We were selling a website to a title insurance company. And they're like, well, we're going to, obviously I actually put it in part of our thing. I said, well, I expect you to go talk to some other people. And I reference my competition all the time. I said, you can literally call them. They know my competition calls us and we call them. I said, we are not the cheapest. And if that's what you're looking for, we're never going to be able to beat them. So might as well just call it a good truce and have a nice day.
Yeah, we'll stop wasting time.
Yeah, because you guys got a new company to start. That website's got to start. It's not we can't just lollygag on that. You want it done. It's around the beginning of December. You want it done for January. We got to go now. Yeah. There's no.
We started 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's no waiting for it. So
you're able to bridge that gap between B2C, the hard B2C, and the B2B that's really hard with those professional services. Mm-hmm. And so, I've got a question. This is a little personal, related to me, but I'd love your opinion, because it's kind of a broad thing. I've done pay-per-click ads for like a month. Spent not $10,000, but I spent a couple of grand, right, experimenting with some ads.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the ads clicked. It was like over one month it was 2,500. The other month it was over 3,000 clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was happening.
Yeah.
So we put a heat map on the thing. Right? I don't understand what you do, but it was a heat map. And we realized that they were bots just clicking on the ads.
Correct.
So first question is, does like Facebook go out and do that? Do other agencies go out and do that? Or is it just some dick who's going out using technology to create problems?
Yeah, the short answer is yes.
To all of them?
Companies have been, yes, those companies have been fined, and they probably, especially with that's actually a thing we were talking about the other day, a threat to the industry is Google's monopolization of the marketplace as an advertiser. And if they get IBM'd, they get split up a little bit, that'll probably shake some things up, because right now everything talks to each other. So you always notice what you talk about on Google then goes over to Facebook and comes right back to the YouTube ads, and everything's just kind of flowing together.
Right.
Based off of who's in charge of the Department of Justice and the FEC and the communications division and all that, that will have a really big play into those exact things. But part of what they're trying to target is Google or other platforms, just using them as the big fish, being malicious and then gypping advertisers into spending more money, which is what you would describe as, I got 3,000 clicks, but they didn't do anything. So what the hell does that even mean if I spent $5,000 on stuff? And that's those statistics that agencies like to hide in and sell sunshine, as I call it, as it'll always get better. It'll just a couple more months, Walter. It'll get better. You'll be fine. We'll get through this. If it doesn't work, turn it off.
Well,
ads might not be the right. It's got to be for the right industry. You can't run ads for everything on Google.
Well, and so I've kind of closed that down. So it's a legitimate thing that people should be aware of, and it's very difficult to police unless somebody gets smacked really hard by some federal agency.
Yeah, and we, as an agency that has a partnership with Google, it's our responsibility to talk to our account reps, and we have flagged that kind of activity before, and it usually stops because they're able to figure out who is spamming you or who. Yeah. Most of the time it's competition or it's a bot network, which you can see that coming from a mile away if you have an agency that's actually looking at your stuff.
And it's got the right tools. It seems
doesn't happen either all the time, but that's it's more of a proactive thing. But yes, that happens unfortunately all the time, and it skews a lot of statistics because we think it's doing really well, and you say, "Well, I've gotten no sales." So that real answer is I've gotten no sales, and it's
because that's how I judge marketing, right? I had a meeting with SEO people this morning, and they're like, "You're ranking number one in this, and this is you were here and out here. This is all great." And I'm like, "Look, we have this conversation for the last 3 months. I know it takes time. Don't get me wrong, but there's one thing I really judge this by: people engaging with me.
Period.
Right? That's all I care about. I'm not talking about closing sales because that's not on you. That's on me."
No.
And then she's like, "Well, let's go here." And so there's a number on the website that they can track. And like, well, there were 11 phone calls, last month that, show no information. And I'm like, "Show me the numbers." So we went through the numbers with my phone, right? Because I can see. Yeah. And all of them were quote unquote spam.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real problem.
And so it works with pay-per-click. It works with people just dialing phone numbers. And I'm like, "Well, how are you going to fix that?" "Well, maybe it's the number." What do you mean it's the number? Like, how would it be the number? You get a new number that those people are going to not do that? I mean,
yeah, no, we use thousands of numbers all the time, and they switch so fast you wouldn't even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are real issues. I appreciate the insights.
Oh, they're 100%. They're not going away either.
So if somebody's out there looking for a conversation, I'm just going to put it this way: they're looking for a real conversation, no bullshit, about their marketing, their needs, from website to campaigns to that whole bucket. What's the best way for them to reach out to Dave and get that conversation started?
Yeah, and happy to. Biggest thing is to have the conversations, right? Everything's below, I know, but our website is spartandigital.com. Quickest way is to fill out a form. My assistant will get everybody hooked up and get us on the phone. Worst thing is to chat for 30 minutes, see what you're doing now, and if you're not doing anything, what you actually should put your money into, so you don't blow $5,000 for no leads.
Right. But you'll help them figure that out. You help them come up with a strategy. I mean, not in a half hour, but you can be directionally, you can give them some value.
Yeah, because there's a lot of resources that if you're not in the budget, right? I mean, we charge a good retainer, and we now have people that have to eat and all that stuff. When it was just me, we could make it work. But there's a lot of resources that you can do outside of an agency for a smaller company, or if you're a single O, that you do all this and then you come talk to us after all that hasn't worked, because there's a lot of sweat equity you can put into stuff too.
Yeah. So that's good insight for people. So we have all this in the show notes, so people can go click and you're in. It doesn't matter anymore where you are.
No, we have clients all over the country. I think we're in 32 states now.
Wow. So, but you're in South Jersey.
Yeah, Southern New Jersey, Philadelphia. Absolutely.
Does that make you an Eagles fan?
Absolutely, it does. Always. I should have put it on today because we're doing hot.
Yeah, you guys are doing well. A lot better than my Giants.
Oh, yes, thank you for Saquon Barkley.
I mean, he's a freaking beast. Like, I don't watch a lot of NFL football anymore just because it's annoying, but holy crap. He just is like, he's got a new life.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
definitely just the whole sport. And me either. I don't watch too much professional sports, but I'm always Philly. Saw something else the other day. You just can't tell until they're on the right team. It's a 4 or 5 man game in that game, and once they work right, you can feel the energy on the field. It's ridiculous.
But what I see the little thing where he jumps up, and that offensive lineman, like, he's smacking the offensive lineman, like, you did that, right? You made that block. The offensive lineman is throwing him up in the air, and he's not a little fella. That to me is like, I live in the Detroit area, so the Lions are kind of having a bit of a resurgence, and you see that on that team as well, right?
Absolutely.
I think it comes from the top down, as my buddy says, the fish rots from the head. For the Lions, it took a woman to get them back on track, right? Sheila Ford is the one who did all the hiring and put that.
Yeah.
And then the guys went out and executed. So, but you said professional sports. What's not professional anymore? The University of Michigan just paid some kid $10.5 million.
Yeah, they want to keep them in college ball now because they're making more than if they would have went minor and then waiting for a professional contract. They're keeping seniors for 7-8 years now.
It's all professional.
Yeah. Oh, if you're playing collegiate sports and above, you're a professional in my book. Same thing in the music world. If you were going to college for music, you were of a professional grade. All day.
Okay. Last question. Past or present, any relationship with cigars?
I'm in the middle of reseasoning my humidor downstairs. I'm going to go finish that after this. I first started smoking cigars when I joined the Freemasons in 2018. There's 150 guys that came to one of my ceremonies, and I had to cut and light 150 cigars that one night. I never smoked a cigar in my life, for the record. So they hand me a Padron 7000 Maduro, and they say, "Here, smoke this." And they're like, "You're a big guy. You can handle this." I'm like, at the time, it's like handing a 12-year-old a bottle of tequila and saying, "Don't drink this all in one swig." Smoked that whole thing to the bone, and I've fell in love ever since.
Well, but Padron, that's my favorite family of cigars.
Yes.
I mean, a 4,000, a 5,000. I'm not a Maduro guy, right? Their natural is hits my palate.
Also great. Yeah.
But I was at the Big Smoke in Vegas a few weeks back, and I got to see Mr. Padron.
That's cool.
And I'm like, he said something on stage. He's like, if there's ever a problem with a cigar, you need to contact us, and we will do what we can to solve it. So I went up to him like, Mr. Padron, I've been smoking your cigars since I started smoking cigars, and I can honestly tell you, it doesn't matter if it's a 4,000 or a 1926 or 1964. I have never had a cigar that had your band on it that didn't burn well, that didn't ash out properly, that wasn't perfectly balanced.
Yep.
If somebody has a problem with them, they're full of shit, because they're just amazing.
Yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you messed up something so bad to where you've demolished. Even I've seen guys not take care of them so well, and they still do fine. Like they're like training wheels. They're like, all right, we'll still, if he doesn't do his humidor right, they'll still be okay. They're not going to be 1,000,000%, but they'll be close. That 100% true. The brand is amazing.
How big is the humidor?
I think it's got about 300 in there. Nothing crazy.
And you have to go outside to smoke them.
Yeah. Well, now you got me thinking about how I can turn this office into a smoking office. That's next. We'll see.
It's I think we have it in our house. I negotiated for quite a while.
I was going to say, that's a big sell right there to the wife, right?
Well, I'm a good sales guy, but I'm not that good, man. It never happened, right? The room that I had picked out was my daughter's bedroom when she was little. Had windows on the woods, right? It was just perfect, and I could get a couple of guys in there, and it would just be fine. And that became one of her sewing room. So like that happened in multiple places. So she's like, why don't you just build a cigar room in the barn?
There you go.
And I'm like, I don't know. Why wouldn't I do that? Because it's literally 68 steps from my back door. So I built this, in 2010, with a buddy who knew what he was doing. I was just handing him stuff and measuring.
That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
I mean, it's 15 by 16. It's got 10-foot ceilings, flat screen, surround sound, bar. It's what I'm sitting in now. The Blue Smoke Lounge became the world headquarters for Helix Sales Development.
I like it.
And people are like, how are you getting away with smoking a cigar? Like, my boss is
just do it. Yeah, I have an outdoor patio and stuff I smoke on now that we built kind of with that in mind. I'm like, man, maybe we should put some more walls on that. put a little heater in there.
You're a hardy guy. You could if you put a little heater out there and it broke down the wind, and you could withstand it. I mean,
oh yeah, I've smoked in worse places, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've smoked out in the cold plenty of times, but I don't have to do that anymore. So,
especially you
highly recommend it.
It gets real. I can complain about it being cold, but then you go out your way and it's like we're nothing compared to you guys out there.
Yeah, you get some snow, but it's ridiculous. It was 22 degrees when I woke up this morning. Yeah, it was right.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Well, a great conversation, really helpful to the audience. I appreciate the tips and the candidness about some of the horse shit that goes on in marketing.
Ditto.
But if you if you're really looking for somebody to get some guidance and get some straight talk, give Dave a call. Appreciate the time, and go grab one of those Padrones, man.
Ditto, Walter. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.